So, it's been a while since you have heard an original piece of mine. So, I am going to read to you 2 poems from this book. Now, before I begin, I'm going to let you know that these poems are pretty personal. I know I've said that a couple times in the past, but these 2 poems are both about relationships, and they're both written from the experiences that I've had in relationships, at least up to the point that I had written them. And relationships can be a very personal thing, which is why I don't really like talking about them publicly directly. But that's also why I have written so much poetry on the subject, because not only is it sort of a way of processing information from the relationships that I've been, but also a way of looking at relationships that other people I know have been in and analyzing that and coming to conclusions based on that. Because I think about these things a lot. I think a lot about what makes a relationship work, what makes it not work, and how things fit together. And I think these 2 poems both approach that topic in very different ways. So, here we go. The first one was written on a prompt that I had seen being passed around Facebook at the time. The prompt is to write a poem that is like an instructional poem on how to love you. And you can take that as you may, and I wrote this as a sort of step-by-step process. I wrote it in spring of 2011, so almost 3 years ago. Wow, that's strange thinking of it like that, but it's been, I don't want to say accurate so far, because I don't want to box every experience of mine into this little box, but it was written based on my experiences at the time, and for a lot of, not just my experiences, but others that I've seen, seems to hold true. So, I guess how to love me. 1. If the way to a man's heart is through his stomach, the way to mine is through my mind. 2. Read the instructions. This is the only mistake men ever make. 3. Push my buttons. Push the right buttons. You can play me like a piano, provided you're playing in a major key. 4. Let me win a few times. Alright, don't let me win. That would be boring, but my wins are essential to making sure I don't get too frustrated and start a relationship apocalypse. 5. Read me like your favorite childhood storybook. You know, the ones your parents had to hide because you kept requesting it before bed, but they always hid it in the same spot, so you'd find it anyway. Tell me things about myself I hadn't even noticed, and things I didn't want to admit I was good at. I will tell you some too, just please try not to say, I know. 6. Don't be afraid to ask for directions. This is the only mistake men ever make. 7. Show me you're vulnerable. I want to know that you are not my Goliath, just a lion that turns into a cat sometimes. Even porcupines have soft bellies. 8. Tell me I'm beautiful. Convince me that I'm worthy of your affection. 9. Say it again. I won't believe you the first time, or maybe even the second. Kiss me slowly in the moonlight. Hold me close. Let me feel every inch of you one moment and listen to your heartbeat the next. The bit about the heartbeat is very important. Without the ability to hear your thoughts, it is the only way for me to ensure that you are real. 11. Continue to be a great friend and a formidable foe. Together they will make you an amazing lover. 12. Tell me you love me. When you do, make sure first you know that with all your heart it is true. This is the only mistake men ever make. Alright, now, this is sort of interesting to look back on at the time, because I have been in relationships since this was written, and I have seen relationships end since this was written, and a lot of these points are reasons why relationships that I've seen and experienced have ended. So now I don't necessarily look at this as like a step-by-step process on how to have a relationship with me, which is kind of how I saw it at the time, but rather just a list of advices for a relationship, more thought of from my perspective. I know there are some people who are a little bit different, like some people may not want someone who pushes their buttons, and that's okay. Some people may not want someone who can read them easily, and again, that's totally cool. This is just based off of my experiences and preferences. Alright, the next one was written about a month after, and this one is a bit different, a bit, I don't want to say graphic. I think it has a couple of swear words in it, but it's a little bit, it has a little bit more of a sexual tinge to it, so I'll warn you about that. But it's still more or less about how different people approach relationships differently. And this was partly based off of a relationship of mine and partly based off of a relationship of a friend of mine. So, there we are. This one's called Let's Play Relationship. From the beginning, I always knew you were just a little bit different. Most guys wanted to feel my tits. You wanted to finger fuck my soul, and as an atheist, I don't know if I was ready for that. You made it evident from the start you play for keeps, and while I practiced seducing invisible men, all you really wanted was a sandwich. I don't pretend to know the soul, but I know people, and I know we're more than arbitrary adjectives that happen to rhyme. Someday someone will have to tell you that hearts aren't as simple as your less than threes lead you to believe, because baby, you decided how to plan our wedding and what to name our children, but you still won't tell me your middle name. I told you that my heart was guarded by an electric fence, and you said, that's okay because I'm ground type, and I found it cute because you're the wateriest type I've ever met. Yes, baby, you're sweet, like high fructose corn syrup. And I admit, when you told me of your plans to propose with a ring pop, I gagged a little. I've never been a huge fan of straight-up sugar. I told you I would break your heart, but I never found the pieces, so I've been wondering if you just swept them under the rug or even bothered to give them a proper burial. Baby, all we ever did was hold hands. Yours was a sponge, and from holding it, mine became cracked and dry long before we ever became Facebook official. And maybe neither of us was ready for the grown-up stuff. Maybe I should continue seducing invisible men, and you should continue making sandwiches, because love is no game of house. it's not as easy as I'm the mommy and you're the daddy, and honestly, I don't think I want to play anymore. Alright, so that one is a little bit different. It's about two people who, like I said, view relationships differently. In this case, the guy sees them as a sort of storybook fairy tale romance, you know. He's described as sweet, like high fructose corn syrup, sort of oversaturated and manufactured, and he talks about wanting a sandwich. And meanwhile, the speaker comes from more of a perspective of, like a more sexual perspective, you know, relationships being used for sex. She talks about seducing invisible men, how most guys wanted to feel her tits, that sort of thing. So it sort of talks about a lot about how I've seen people approach relationships in the early years of college as well as in high school, where it can be one or the other, and when two people who view relationships differently are in a relationship together, it can end disastrously, or it can just be very, very strange, depending on how the two people deal with it. So, yeah, that's my perspective on relationships. Let me know what you guys think. If you are interested in the prompt that had me write the first poem, write a poem about how to love you, I would love to read your guys' poems. If you have your own response to that poem, if you've written one already or you want to write one now, go for it. Yeah, and let me know what you guys think. And I will see you guys next time.